Alright, nobody talk about my music on this video now. This is one of my little girl's favorite songs. I'm not saying I like it or I don't, but I don't want any junk, no trash talking about this video. We're starting today with Orange Sheet number 2. Orange Sheet number 2. And on this video, we're going to go through A through J real quick, because most of this should be a solid review for you, especially for as we're getting ready for the CRCT. So we're going to start off with A, 13th Amendment. Hopefully all of us know that this actually officially ended slavery forever. 14th Amendment, that made blacks U.S. citizens, and the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. Now we know at this time, women, white or black, did not have the right to vote, and it wasn't until the 19th Amendment that took place. Letter D, segregation. We know segregation is actually the situation of keeping blacks and whites separate. So make sure that you refresh your memory on that. That should be pretty much fresh. Jim Crow laws. This was a racist policy, and it was actually segregation by law, and it was mainly carried out by the Southern Democrats. And remember, the Democrats were pretty much the white people. Southern Democrats were, some of them were actually the KKK. F, sharecropping. Sharecropping. We know that's where the percentage of the crops go to the landowner, and the other part, or the percentage, goes to the laborer, which most of the time was a black male. We know that the landowner provides the land and maybe sometimes tools or plow or something like that. The black person would always provide the labor. He might have a animal that would pull a plow, but it always involved a cycle of poverty for the black man. Letter G, Plessy versus Ferguson. You need to make sure you know it was a United States Supreme Court case. Okay, so a U.S. Supreme Court case, and where Homer Plessy tried to, actually he did sit in a white passenger train car, and this actually backed the doctrine separate but equal. H, disenfranchisement, and we know this is actually denying a person the right to vote. And we know there were several different ways the Southern Democrats, whites, ever what you want to call them, tried to disenfranchise blacks. One of them was the poll tax. If the black people had any money, they used it to feed their family, provide shelter for their family. They did not have the extra money to actually pay a poll tax in order to vote. So a lot of times blacks didn't vote. The literacy test, we know actually was where the whites and blacks actually had to take a test to prove that they could read and write. And people felt like that if you couldn't read and write, then you shouldn't have the opportunity to vote. So this not only affected some of the blacks, it actually affected some of the whites as well. The white primaries. White primaries were where only white people could vote. So if you had all white people voting, what color do you think the candidate white people would vote for be? Obviously white. So white primaries disenfranchised blacks as well. And here, Democrats were mainly responsible for this, for the disenfranchisement, which makes sense to us. Literacy test we've already discussed. Again, you had to pass a test making sure that you could read and write before you could vote. And we know letter J is the poll tax. And again, you had to pay money in order to vote, and you had to do that before you actually were allowed to vote. So stay tuned as we jump into part 2 of the Orange Sheet number 2 video, and we'll do that in just a little bit.